Hey everybody, Josh Peck here. Hope you're doing well. We got a lot to talk about today. Lots of good information, how the war in the Middle East might lead to the Gog and Magog prophecy. And, we'll try to answer the question, does this conflict with Iran point us to the biblically prophetic end times? So lots to talk about. By the way, I do have notes on all of this. And if you want all those notes, there's a couple different ways you can go about it. First, you can get a subscription to, get a membership to dailyrenegade.com. If you do that, you'll get this whole video, not just the first half that I'm putting up on YouTube. You'll get the whole thing. There's lots to talk about here. We're going to dig into Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39. Then we're going to go back and talk about Ezekiel 37. And then after that, we're going to talk about the spirit of Antichrist. So lots to get into. You're probably going to want the full thing. And everything that I say, all of the information I have written kind of like a blog or like an article. If you're a member at Daily Renegade, you can download that PDF and you have it for your own. You have the file on your own computer. You can read it, follow along, then you have all of the notes at your disposal. If you don't want to download an extra file, you can also go to joshpeck.substack.com, and there you can just read it as like a blog article, like on a web page. And you also get the full audio-only podcast version of this video, which is both halves. It's all the information, but it's audio only in case you're in the car or if you're doing chores at home and you don't want to deal with a video. You can do that. So once again, that's dailyrenegade.com and joshpeck.substack.com. The best thing to do is just put them both together. Then you get the best of both worlds. Okay. So it's obvious for anybody that turns on the news, stuff is getting crazy, and a lot of people have been wondering, is this prophetic? Is what's happening right now in the Middle East with Iran and all of this stuff, is this setting up something prophetic? Is it prophetic? Is there something about this in the Bible? So what I want to do is dig into some of it. There's obviously a lot of places we could point to in the Bible. But I want to look at some of the main ones that people are asking about and talking about. So we're going to start with Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39. So the prophecy that's talked about in these two chapters describes a horrific war between Israel and the surrounding nations. It gives us. Oh, and remember, this is the book of Ezekiel, so this was written some 2,500 years ago. It gives us all the facts in very clear and specific detail of what will transpire during this war. And the question is, does this sound like what's about to happen or what's ramping up or what could potentially happen in the Middle East now? So I think it'd be a good idea to go through this prophecy and see. So this prophecy is commonly referred to as the War of Gog of Magog, or the Ezekiel 38 war. So chapter 38 begins with God describing Gog of Magog and all the nations who will take part in this war against Israel. The way to discover what these nations are today is to look at what area is being described from the time of Ezekiel. So for example, we know the land of Persia from Ezekiel's time is now called Iran. We can use that method to discover what the rest of the nations are. So listing them in order of mention, first we have Magog. So there are a few different places that Magog is thought to represent. Some say it's Armenia, others say it's what the Greeks called Scythia, or what would be Russia today, and others recognize it as Turkey. Now, to be safe, I keep my eye on current events of all of Israel's surrounding nations, but I believe Magog is more than likely either Russia or Turkey, but I personally lean towards Russia. And I lean towards Russia because Turkey is already mentioned by different names in this prophecy, which we'll look at in a minute. So I don't think it would make much sense to mention Turkey twice in two different ways. It would be like saying the United States, Canada, Mexico, and North America. All you would have to say is North America. So as we'll see, it would be kind of like that. So I lean towards Russia. Next in the list of nations are Meshech and Tubal, which are widely accepted as being Turkey. So if Meshech and Tubal are places in Turkey, then we can look at how the passage is worded, and we can see how Magog would probably be Russia. Ezekiel 38, 2 through 3 reads, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. So if Gog is the ruler or chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and Magog is the land, then that would logically put Meshech and Tubal outside of the land of Magog. Otherwise, this verse would seem repetitive. If Meshech and Tubal are in what is now known as Turkey, then it would make sense that the land of Magog in Ezekiel's time would be our present-day Russia, since Turkey is already mentioned. And again, a lot of this stuff that we talk about that we're going to talk about, a lot of this is debated. So, as always, I suggest, looking into it yourself, looking at all different points and seeing just what fits best with the Bible. Now, another interesting fact to mention, today, Russia supplies various weapons to Iran, and this certainly would fit into the Ezekiel 38 and 39 war. Now, next we have Persia, which is now known as Iran since 1935. Then Ethiopia and Libya are listed. Now, Ezekiel 38, 4 through 5 says that present-day Iran will be involved somehow, which is interesting given all of the media coverage nowadays concerning the tension between Iran and Israel, obviously. So far, we see in this passage that Russia, Turkey, Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya will be involved against Israel somehow, in some way. And it's interesting to note that biblical Ethiopia may not be the same as present-day Ethiopia. Biblical Ethiopia would have been, in the past, what is now northern Sudan. Hey everyone. Concerning the economically unstable times that we live in, it is a great idea to convert some of your savings into real money. Now, there is a big difference between real money and what we call money, which is actually currency. So our dollar is currency, which fluctuates. Real money, like silver, is a store of value over time. The best way to think of it is like this. If you had saved $1,000 in cash back in the late 60s, the late 1960s, that $1,000 would still be $1,000 today, but it would buy you significantly less today due to inflation. Now, if you saved that same $1,000 in silver back in the 1960s, it would be around $28,000 today. So one of the best ways to protect your purchasing power is in real money, more specifically, silver. Now, you can buy and have the metal shipped discreetly to your door, and what most people don't know is that you can actually convert your IRA or even your 401k into physical silver rather than having all your life savings tied up in the paper fiat system, which is, of course, subject to hyperinflation. So go to dailyrenegade.com right now and click on the Cornerstone Asset Metals banner and sign up to get your free silver report. One of the financial experts will speak with you and find out the best way to protect your savings going forward in these uncertain times. You can also click on the link in the description below that goes directly to cornerstoneassetmetals.com. Make sure you tell them that Josh Peck at Daily Renegade sent you. It is time to stop trusting the evil beast financial system of the world and protect your assets today. So next, in Ezekiel 38, verse 6, we have Gomer and Togarmah listed as nations that will also have part in this coalition of nations against Israel. Gomer and Togarmah are also present-day Turkey. These are, different areas. And possibly... shut up, Siri. I'm charging my iPad because I have a teleprompter app in there, and I'm going to record some stuff in a few days. And Siri just heard me. I hate Siri. I hate all that. You try to turn it off, but it turns itself back on. I don't know how to get rid of it. Anyway, it heard me say Israel and it started giving me information. But anyway, so now let me back up a little bit. because that was a little distracting. Okay. So in Ezekiel 38 and 6, we have Gomer and Togarmah listed as nations that will have part in this. So these are also in present day Turkey and possibly Armenia. So we have all of these nations coming against Israel in this passage. Now, the interesting fact is that all of these nations in our time are primarily Islamic. And it's no secret that, radical Islamic Muslims are no friend to the Jewish people or to the state of Israel. Another interesting thing to point out is that this passage says these nations will come against a, quote, land of unwalled villages, end quote, and that's from Ezekiel 38:11. And that there's a lot of different ways that people have tried to interpret that. But I think that it's a term used to reference modern day Israel, because what's interesting about this is that in Ezekiel's time, there would have been walls all around the villages to prevent attacks from other people and nations. Nowadays, we use other forms of security to ensure the safety of our cities, towns, and villages. Israel has the whole Iron Dome thing. And the way we accomplish security now would have been unheard of at the time Ezekiel was giving this prophecy. So next we have Sheba, Dedan, and Tarshish mentioned in the prophecy. So Ezekiel 38:13 reads, Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, Art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey? To carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil. So we're told here that the cause of the attempted invasion into Israel is for spoil, not necessarily purely for destruction, or at least that's the questions that's being asked. The nations mentioned above seemed to be, that we just mentioned, seemed to be involved in more of a protest against the war in some way, maybe financial. Sheba and Dedan are recognized as Saudi Arabia, while Tarshish is thought to be Western Europe. Now that's interesting because the official emblem of England is the lion, as our official emblem is the eagle. And it says all the young lions. Well, young lions, so that'd be like lion cubs. So something that came from the lion. Well, would that possibly be America? Is this the one and only place possibly that America can actually be found in Bible prophecy? Maybe. Now, this type of alliance between Western Europe and Saudi Arabia has happened before during the Gulf War. So given the similarities of events, I believe this part of the Gulf War could have been a shadow of what's to come in the Ezekiel 38-39 war. So after that, so we have all the nations that are listed, and after the nations are listed, then we get some more information about how the war will actually play out. And we even learn that there will be a great shaking in Israel, and we get that from Ezekiel 38, verse 20. Now, this could be due to an earthquake or maybe even some type of explosion. There is also a part of the verse that says, quote, every man's sword shall be against his brother, end quote, which may signify that the loose coalition of nations against Israel will also be fighting amongst themselves. And that's in Ezekiel 38:21. Now, we also see that the army of Gog, be it Russia or Turkey, again, I lean towards Russia, will be massively devastated in this war. So Ezekiel 39:2 reads, and I will turn thee back and leave but the sixth part of thee, and will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and will bring thee upon the mountains of Israel, end quote. So the next interesting thing is what is said about the weapons of Israel and how they'll be utilized. This is really interesting. Ezekiel 39:9-10 reads, and they that dwell in the cities of Israel shall go forth and shall set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and the bucklers, the bows and the arrows, and the handstaves and the spears, and they shall burn them with fire 7 years, so that they shall take no wood out of the field, neither cut down any out of the forests, for they shall burn the weapons with fire, and they shall spoil those that spoiled them, and rob those that robbed them, saith the Lord God. Now, this is really interesting, and there's a couple different possible interpretations for this passage. This is another one of those where kind of opinions are split, but it's really interesting to look at. So, some feel that the weapons being burned are those of the nations that by this time Israel has won the war and they're destroying the weapons of their enemies, and that this task will take 7 years to complete. Some others believe Israel is burning the weapons for heat and energy, which would fit if they are, nuclear weapons of some kind. Now, others theorize that Israel has won the war and, because of pressure from other nations not involved directly in the war, or possibly even due to the return of Jesus on earth, that they are burning their own weapons, which again will take 7 years to complete, as a sign for future peace. Another main theory is that since this is an ancient prophecy trying to describe events from our time or the future, terms known to the people of Ezekiel's time might have been used to explain advanced weaponry. No one gets into full-time ministry to make money. At least no one should. Given that, Daily Renegade accepts donations from those who care to help keep us going. Now, because Daily Renegade does not want to be told by the government what we can and can't say, we're not 501c3, so your donations are not tax deductible, but that's not why you're giving anyway, to get something back for yourself. Speaking of which, we here are never going to promise that if you donate, God will reward you with even more financial success. We're not about making promises for God here. But what I can promise is your donations are very much appreciated and help the continuation of everything we do here at Daily Renegade to reach the world with the truth of the Bible. Also, as many of you know, my son Nathan has had some very serious medical issues that we are treating with good, all-natural and holistic remedies. But of course, those are very expensive and are not covered by insurance, so your donations help go towards his health care as well. If you can't afford to donate, you can always donate your time in prayer, which is far more valuable anyway. Let's be serious. So pray for our wisdom, pray for God's guidance for us, and that we never lose focus on what's really important, which is using Daily Renegade as a light of truth that the world so desperately needs right now, especially in these times. As always, thank you so much for your generosity, and I pray God blesses you greatly. So, the phrase set on fire and burn the weapons, and the term spear, that could translate today as the propelling fire under a missile. When you look at a missile, think of yourself 2,500 years ago. That would look like, if you saw a missile, that would look like a spear that's on fire, a weapon that's on fire, right? So that could make sense, as weapons like that are not made out of wood, and in the way bows and arrows were in Ezekiel's day, and the passage does make mention of them not cutting down forests or taking out wood. So that's a possibility too, and I kind of like that one. That one's really interesting. So it's also theorized that it's saying the war itself will last 7 years, as the burning of weapons is a way of saying that they will be firing weapons against their enemies for 7 years. So next we read of the aftermath of the war in the land of Israel. So Ezekiel 39:11 through 16, which is it this one? Let me see. Yeah, this is one of the weirder ones, because when you read this, it's amazing. This was written 2,500 years ago, and these seem to be processes on how we would deal with nuclear things today. Let me just read it. And okay, so Ezekiel 39:11 through 16 says, "And it shall come to pass in that day that I will give unto Gog a place there of graves in Israel, the valley of the passengers on the east of the sea, and it shall stop the noses of the passengers, and there shall they bury Gog and all his multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Hamon-Gog. And 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying of them, that they may cleanse the land. Yea, all the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be to them a renown the day that I shall be glorified, saith the Lord. And they shall sever out men of continual employment, passing through the land to bury with the passengers those that remain upon the face of the earth, to cleanse it. After the end of 7 months shall they search. And the passengers that pass through the land, when any seeth a man's bone, then shall he set up a sign by it, till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Hamongog. And also the name of the city shall be Hamona. Thus shall they cleanse the land. End quote. So this passage, Ezekiel 39:11 through 16, speaks of there being made a valley of graves for the enemies of Israel called Hamongog. It says the cleanup of the bodies of the dead takes 7 months to complete, and it even says that Israel will have to employ people to come and bury the dead in a way that if a bone is found, someone must put a sign by it until the special employees can come and bury the bone. Now, this is very strange and a very descriptive account of future events. It seems like there will be some type of maybe radiation or other toxicity for there to be a need to hire specialists to bury the dead in this way. It's very, very strange. But that sounds modern, doesn't it? That sounds like a nuclear cleanup situation or something. I don't know. By the way, with all of this, I would love to know what you think. Please leave comments in the in the comment section and let us know if you follow my interpretations or if you think they could be interpreted a different way. I'd love to know what you think throughout all this. So again, the people of Ezekiel's time obviously did not have these types of weapons at their disposal. So to Ezekiel, the visions must have seemed really fantastic, but through faith in God, he still prophesied about them. And the sobering fact is that now we do have weapons that can cause the type of destruction and devastation that Ezekiel talked about. Now, although some of these prophecies may seem bleak, it is important to remember that God wins in the end. And we should all have an understanding of prophecy to be able to prepare for what's to come. With the Ezekiel prophecies, there are some things that are definite, and there are some things that could be more open to interpretation. So, some people wonder, is this Gog of Magog war, is that during the tribulation, before the tribulation? Where exactly does it fall in line? Is it before or after the rapture? We don't know. The rapture could happen at any moment. We don't need the Gog of Magog war to happen before the rapture can happen. That could happen at any moment. And as far as where to put this, it could be in the tribulation. It could be now. It could be after the rapture, but before the tribulation, if there's a gap of time there. So there's lots of ways it could, we're not really told specifically when this is going to happen, but we're told what to look for. And again, when we turn on the news, this seems pretty familiar. Like it seems like we could see how what's happening now might be setting the stage for this in the possibly near future. But again, we don't know. But this is why we should hear out all opinions and weigh them for ourselves with our own research. Someday, these truths will become self-evident. And what I mean by that is at some point, either during or after the prophecy is fulfilled, we will all know exactly how everything panned out. But by then, it could be too late to do much about it. Now, while I don't believe we can prevent Bible prophecy, I certainly believe that we should prepare for it. So, I believe that it's increasingly important to be knowledgeable and informed of what God has revealed about the future. Bible prophecy is a wonderful thing to those who can appreciate it for what it is. Bible prophecy is a source of information about God and the future, and we can use Bible prophecy to prove the legitimacy of God and His Word. Perhaps most excitingly, we can look to even further prophecies concerning Jesus' return, a perfect world, and experiencing God face to face to strengthen our own hope and faith during these tumultuous times. So that's what I have so far on Ezekiel 38 and 39. Now, obviously, there's a lot more that we could delve into. I just kind of wanted to lay out some of the basics and then tell you guys, keep an eye on the news, keep an eye on this prophecy, and see if things start to line up. We do have more to talk about. I want to, I'm going to get into Ezekiel chapter 37, which actually comes before this prophecy. I wanted to deal with 38 and 39 first because it may have to do with current events now. But I want to back up and go into chapter 37, which is the vision of the dry bones, and talk about how that relates to Israel. And then after that, I want to talk about the spirit of Antichrist and what that actually means in our world today. So this is why I say it is good to have a membership at dailyrenegade.com, because then you get the full video, or joshpeck.substack.com, because you have the full audio, and in both cases you have the full notes, either a downloadable PDF at Daily Renegade, or you can view the whole entire blog post on joshpeck.substack.com. All right, so let's get into Ezekiel chapter 37. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the first half of this episode of the Sharpening Report. If you are a Bible-believing Christian who opposes the kingdom of darkness trying to run the world right now, then you are a renegade to the satanic system. We here at Daily Renegade wear that badge proudly. So, if you're a renegade as well, and you want to see the rest of this video, head on over to dailyrenegade.com right now and get a membership today. Not only will you get the rest of this video, but you'll get our full catalog of Sharpening Report episodes and Daily Renegade update videos on topics such as Bible prophecy, science, technology, the Nephilim, aliens, and so much more. All of our episodes at Daily Renegade are early access, so as a member, you'll get the videos before anyone else does. Daily Renegade also offers videos not available anywhere else due to social media censorship. We also have a community page only for members where we can all fellowship together without fear of censorship. It's basically the best of Facebook and YouTube rolled into one without any of the garbage. Memberships are only $10 a month or $100 a year, and if you can do it, I suggest getting the $100 a year because it's cheaper in the long run, and essentially you get 2 months for free that way. So come join our family of renegades at dailyrenegade.com right now. The link is in the description below, and we'll see you there.